Hello Blues, it's Stephen here on BlueMoonRisingTV. Life is very good for Manchester City fans at the moment. We are top of the league, we've had an incredible run of results and Guardiola is breaking records. But, as ever, there's always room for improvement. So here are 6 things that Pep could look to fix in the coming months. Now, one problem obvious to all City fans is the fullback situation. This is the one area that we all wanted addressed in the summer. For whatever reason, it didn't happen. Maybe they were too hard to move on, maybe they wanted to stay, and maybe Guardiola saw enough on the training ground to suggest otherwise. But the likes of Kolarov, Sagna, Zabaleta, Clichy, they are all above 30 now and their age is starting to catch up with them. They started the season well, but they're looking tired as most of them did last season. I think it's no surprise really that Zabaleta, his legs are catching up with him and he isn't once the warrior that he once was for Manchester City. Even Kolarov, after his great start to the season, is showing signs of regressing into last season's form. Now, this begs the question, where do we go from here and what is the solution? It could be signing some players next summer, potentially the likes of Bellerin, Gaia, Grimaldo. All these have been linked and they all fit the profile of young, technical, attacking fullbacks. And we've even had the opportunity of maybe using one or two of the young lads like Maffeo, Angelino. Both have already had a start under Guardiola, which is more than they had last season under Pellegrini. But both are still very raw and both are still very much about the potential, not the here and now. That does beg the question about the problem of the fullback situation. Which way is he going to go? Is he going to splash the cash or use the young players? Now, where else can we go to for our second point other than Claudio Bravo? Our contentious new number one, the man who replaced Joe Hart in the summer, a fan favourite who was sent out on loan to Italy. Now, obviously, this isn't Claudio Bravo's fault, but his reputation wasn't held by, on his debut, having a shocker at Old Trafford, gifting Zlatan a goal after colliding into John Stones, in general, looking a little bit nervous. Since then too, maybe he's been involved in a few situations where the defence has looked a little bit uneasy, receiving passes in tight situations. Though he has been fine in that situation, a lot of people and a lot of fans have been calling him to be a little bit more direct and maybe stop faffing around a little bit with the ball. Now, I don't think this is going to change anytime soon, and I think he's playing in exactly the way that Guardiola wants him to. And maybe as a fan base, we're all a little nervous. It goes against the stereotype that we associate with goalkeepers. It's not what we expect to see from a number one. We expect them not to pass it around and play almost as a midfielder. We expect them to clear it and use their hands. He isn't going to do that. Guardiola doesn't want him doing that. He never will do that, and he's been brought to play a very certain way. 83% pass ratio at the time suggests that it's going quite well at that front, and maybe as a fan base we need to accept the idea of the identity of a goalkeeper at Manchester City changing. The academy teams have been doing this for years now and it's going to happen in our first team. I think it does highlight a problem though potentially with our fullbacks, the likes of Kolarov, Clichy, Sagna, Zabaleta, all to differing degrees have looked a little bit nervous at times trying to deal with this passing from the back system, and the likes of Fernando have struggled too. He isn't a Busquets, put it that way, and it could be a problem in the future unless we have a little bit more time, a little bit more patience. In general, Guardiola needs to do a little bit more work on the training ground. Now, to understand this next point, we need to consider the fact that this is very much a work in progress. This isn't Pep Guardiola's final Manchester City form. There is work to be done, both in terms of new recruits, methods, ideas, and lots of ideology that needs working on the training ground. But so far, the only worrying blots and a pretty impressive record have been the 2 performances against Celtic and Spurs. Celtic were very good that night, and so were Spurs, but they both did the thing that many people would say would find out Guardiola in the early days of his reign at Manchester City, and that was a high intensity pressing system. They were both more organised and more in tune with the ways of their team that were going to play than we were on the night. Fair play to both of them. They deserved points and a victory in Spurs' case on the night, but it did raise a few questions. Will we be able to adapt to how these teams press us? Is there more worrying games coming ahead with the likes of Barcelona, Liverpool, 2 teams that will both go at us from the very first minute to the last? And is Pep going to learn how to cope with that in the Premier League? It is an intense league. There will be new challenges, and teams in general in the Premier League like to find out ways to get at managers, and this will happen from now until the end of the season. But it is very much early days. This isn't Manchester City at their very best. We're not Barcelona or Bayern Munich yet. Maybe we will be one day at that level, but we are still learning how to play the system. And while there are still insecurities and still lessons to be learned, it's probably no surprise that there will be moments where we start to forget how to play when we come under such pressure. And that's what happened at Spurs. That's what happened at Celtic. And this will probably happen again at some point. Guardiola will know this, but it does beg the question, how much work can we do in the coming weeks to prevent this becoming a future issue at Manchester City. Now, worryingly, there are already signs of tiredness creeping into this squad. It's a problem that has plagued Manchester City for some time now, and we're already seeing signs of niggling injuries, tiredness, a lack of rotation start to creep into Manchester City's season. Pep is no man's mug, he knows what he's doing, but there are worries already, and the fact that people like De Bruyne, even Silva, Aguero's picked up a small knock at the moment, Delph, Company and a few other players are starting to look a little bit tired, picking up a few strains here and there, pulling out of internationals. It doesn't bode well for Manchester City, and the warning signs are there. We have to be cautious about overstretching our players. A lot of these players aren't used to this kind of game, this high intensity pressing for 90 minutes, and it will tire them out. I do understand why Pep has been playing his strongest 11 for more or less every game so far, because he wants these players to really adapt to the style. He wants them to put in the hard miles while they learn how to play the system, but at some point something will give, and I don't want it to be the players' legs, and I do worry that this could happen very soon. The warning signs are already there, and it is a problem. We maybe need to start integrating some of the young players, work out who could do a job in different positions, and maybe start to choose and pick our battles a little bit better. We all want Kevin De Bruyne to start every single game. We all want Vincent Kompany to be back and play every game, but it can't happen. These players need rest. It's a very long season. Guardiola isn't used to this kind of season where we have no winter break. He isn't going to be used to such a high intensity league, and this could be a problem in the future if we don't start planning our season, planning rotations, and giving players the adequate rest that they need. Now, we all know Sergio Aguero is a world-class striker, one of the very best we've ever seen in the blue shirt, one of the best to ever grace the Premier League, but there is still room for improvement. Yes, we're saying this after the back of a whole host of goals so far this season, but Sergio and Pep both know that he can get even better. Pep himself said that he needs to be more involved with the process, and by this he means he needs to get more involved with the team's play, be it defensively, pressing from the front, or going back towards his own goal, or linking up with the midfield, playing little one-touch passes. In general, in the past, Guardiola has been excellent at this, getting more from players who already seemed excellent, be it Thomas Muller, Lewandowski, Alaba, and the whole lot over at Barcelona. Pep knows how to improve a striker or two. Guardiola knows that Aguero needs work to do, and he is the man to get more out of Sergio Aguero. And unfortunately for us, the question still remains, what do we do with Vincent Kompany? Now, don't get us wrong, we all love Vincent Kompany. He is, without a doubt, when fit, one of the best, if not the best centre-back in world football, but time and time again, he hasn't been available. And Guardiola does only have a very thin patience for this kind of thing. He needs players that are going to be there, that are going to be reliable. And for one reason or another, at the moment, Vincent Kompany isn't reliable. Yes, some people will say that maybe he shouldn't have played the 90 minutes against Swansea, and that probably didn't help his recovery, and maybe that's why he picked up another knock. But the end result is still the same. He still does have plenty of knocks. He still does have loads of injuries. And given how good John Stones has been, given the fact that Otamendi has showed signs of maybe reaching his full potential, Kolarov has stepped into defence and looked pretty decent, and the likes of Tosin Adarabioyo have emerged as potential future stars in defence. Where does this leave Vincent Kompany, and what does Guardiola do? He is a man who knows how to make unpopular decisions, but one of the most unpopular of them all could be deciding to move Vincent Kompany on. It's a question that needs to be answered, and Guardiola, it's up to you, mate. So, City are top of the league. We are playing some beautiful football and we are breaking records, yet it still could get better. And that, as far as we're concerned, is only a good thing, because it's only gonna get better from here until the end of the season. Blues, where does Pep need to work his magic the most, in your opinion? Get in the comments, let us know. Drop a like on the video, subscribe, and we will see you soon. Alright guys, it's Stephen here on BlueMoonRisingTV, and we're going to do something today that you've all been asking for in the comments for a very, very long time. And